Hey guys, it's ViewMasters Reactions, and we're back with some more Legend of Vox Machina. This is the legend of the world of the Legend of Vox Machina. Now, last we saw was the story, and the story was kind of how it all came together and how it began, how it became a thing. Where we're going from here is the world building, I'm guessing. They're going to show us the world. They're probably going to give us a little flash through. I don't know. I feel like this could be the most spoilsome of the 5. And it was said by Trix Jester in the comments and others as well, this and the story one were the most spoilersome. The story one wasn't really spoilersome at all. I mean, like people said, if you really want to consider something spoilers, you probably could, but most of it is not going to make anything less exciting in the larger scheme of things. I feel like if I actually watched the campaigns, then yes, it would be that way. I started thinking, because people were writing in the comments, I am going to go back and respond to these comments. I promise. I just want to do them all in full. I was thinking maybe as the episodes go on, like in a week and a half when we start reacting to them and I put them up, people will probably know what that corresponds to in the actual campaign live streams. And it might be interesting to then watch the campaign live stream after the episode airs. Like, not enough to spoil it, but like once something's completed, you guys know, like people that are real hardcore Critical Role followers would probably know, or at least be able to figure out where it begins and ends with the shows. And then maybe it might be interesting to see like the long drawn out campaign version of that. But I don't know. I wonder if that would be extremely difficult to do. I feel like people that are really into it would figure it out. And I feel like people would do breakdowns already and figure it out for me. Like, I feel like there'd already be like people doing videos on that are more familiar with the campaign itself. Whereas I'm going in blind and I don't know anything about it. I can't go around and I don't really want to go around, but other people could probably figure it out really quick. Like something I'm very passionate about and love and have seen 500 times over. I could probably tell you like the exact span of minutes in which a scene is or something like that. But I'm going to jump into this. We'll talk more after. I talked a lot at the end of the last one. That was the story, like I said. So you guys told me it'll be safe from here on. I'm going to run through the rest. I might take pauses between, but there are roughly 10 minutes, give or take, each one. And there's 5, like we said. So this will be number 2, and then we'll go on from there. You guys want to be way ahead, full unedited reactions, all the shows on the channel, seasons ahead of what you're seeing on YouTube, and hundreds of exclusives only on Patreon. The link's at the end. If not, we're jumping in. This is the legend of the world of the Legend of Vox Machina. Oh.
We're seeing these amazing designs coming in.
I feel like we're going to see a lot of the same people.
And color palettes. It's gorgeous. It's epic.
It's beyond all expectations.
To see it all for the first time.
I'm getting to know all these people very well.
I just started crying because I was like, I can't believe
That's
this
Pike.
is real.
I'm going to get really familiar with their voices as we get on through this. I feel like her name was Allison, maybe, but her name in the game is Pike, and that's
the trajectory of this story over the years has constantly defied our expectations. The size and the scale of it has felt so large and sweeping to us in our minds, and so you think, what could possibly live up to it? And the team at Titmouse has really been answering the call.
Love it. Titmouse.
Titmouse is one of the best animation studios around. Period. They check all the boxes.
I honestly don't recall hearing of them.
Wazoo. They've worked on funny shows, dramatic shows. They've done it all.
It truly
I don't know what
feels
that is.
like a company
I never was big with animated till this channel.
Just like our company, we instantly felt a kinship and a shared language. It kind of lowered the barrier to entry.
The people at the top who define the culture and the attitude of the studio are themselves huge nerds, super into this stuff. And
that is
not
an
just for
interesting
me, but
hat.
for them, this is kind of the dream project because we're sort of living out our dream of finally getting to create this type of property.
They aren't wanting to take, something
I was going to say, that's the twin girl.
Completely different. They want to honor what it was that we did.
Are any of them
in
real life married or dating? I feel like that would happen with all this interaction. I almost feel like you might even be dating before you even started the campaign. Like, I know a lot of people that do it as couples.
In the first place, I had no idea I was going to be on it.
I remember very distinctly getting my eyes on some of Arthur Loftus, our art director's first background pieces.
They made a joke about that
stunned.
in the cast thing. Strong jaw, or something like that.
Critical Role fan. So the fact that you've got somebody who really knows the show, who's designing things even down to minute detail, like even Matt Mercer's like, oh yeah, I forgot about that, but Arthur hasn't forgotten about it. Like he's put it in the show.
And that's something you just don't get in any animated series. Usually the executive producer has to explain to the art
He looks so
director
different than the
feeling that
casting
he's trying
call.
to evoke,
His
or
hair
she's
and
trying
I
to
think he had
evoke, but
facial
Arthur
hair.
knows that feeling because
That's
he watched
Scanlan.
it live.
A lot of the vision does come from Arthur, but then what I add to it is, you know, how
Zelda.
to make the world seem really alive and believable. My role as supervising director is to really coordinate and work with the story team. We're
I'm sorry
literally
if I get quiet. I'm
translating
looking around at
ideas into
everything.
visual and finding opportunities to really
That's
push
the bar
elements
scene.
to make the world feel that
Awesome.
much
You
more
got all the
integrated.
instruments and
Sunjin
stuff.
works on all the episodes, and he's got the big picture, the 10,000-foot view about
What is that
where
behind
the story
it?
is going
Some
over
kind
the
of
course
mech
the season,
costume?
where the story is going over the course of the series.
He is so dedicated to making sure that it feels right for The Legend of Vox Machina.
I have never felt more
It's such a
confident
cool
in letting
name.
other people
I
handle a vision of mine
love the name.
than
That's what
already
kind of
saying
draw
my
me
vision
to it
for
too.
The whole team.
Draw me to
We're
it
getting
too.
to revisit all these great
Draw
locations
was-
that we explored in the original Vox Machina campaign that we played through live. Locations like Emon.
Emon is very much the central fantasy metropolis of this continent, at least from a human society standpoint. And so these first episodes really kind of introduce us to that place.
The initial
Awesome.
sketches that Arthur did of Emon were so striking and so epic in scale and scope.
Kinda looks like
that
Minas
we had
Tirith
to go back and look at Matt's original
on the ground
drawings and
instead
be
of
like,
up in the
Is
mountain.
this right?
Right?
Does this match? And it does. He took what Matt did on a 2D piece of paper and turned it into a 3D world.
I think
Very
we think
much
of
like Minas Tirith, I think I'm thinking of,
compared
or am I thinking of
to
Helm's?
Other
No, I think
fantasy
I'm thinking of
cities that you
Minas
know, like
Tirith.
Rivendell. There's going to be a certain familiarity to Emon because it's kind of like a fantasy New York. There are elements to it that I think everyone can recognize.
And this is the focus of the first
Stylistically, we just
episode,
wanted to give
maybe two?
people a nice way to sort
They said
of
two, I
slip
think.
into this medieval fantasy world without being too
That kind of
challenged
equipment
with the
doing that would be
weirdness of,
so
like,
awesome.
all the other stuff that's going to come later.
Beyond the Mountain,
that's
there
just
are a
so
few
awesome to,
locations
like,
that we get to
live your
explore in
dream
the
like
animated
this.
Series first season. Early in, we get to visit the Shale Steps, which is a place that was not seen in the campaign streamed-wise. It's a coastal fishing city among a unique-looking cliff range that itself looks like waves frozen in the motion of crashing onto a shore.
And then Vox Machina, as you know, makes a journey from Emon to Whitestone. And even the
As you
journey
know,
that they
I
take,
don't know, Sam.
Arthur has taken, again, early maps that Matt drew up and turned them into real places with transitions from forest to desert to jungle to mountain.
It's going to
We're
be
looking at
interesting to
different
watch this in reverse because I am
landscapes
going
existing in the real world,
to, at some point, tap into the
taking
campaign.
ideas from each of them and
live
sort
stream.
of assigning them locations within the critical rural world. For example, when we get closer to Whitestone, things look a bit more like Yosemite. It's the Alabaster Sierras, so we picked from the actual high Sierras and took those shapes and the way the trees look
Very
and the way
cool.
the vegetation.
I like
runs
when you
across
can
them
relate to
and
things,
assigned it.
but still
Our
have it,
other
like,
large
unique.
location for season 1 is going to be Whitestone. The architectural language we really wanted to play with and make sure that it felt authentic.
He went back into the history of the world.
I
and
like the
history
top of the
continent
tower. It had,
and
like, the
thought,
sun and the
if people
moon.
had sailed here via boat, what would their architecture look like?
So all of our buildings kind of have this feeling of like a ship's bow coming out of the ground. All the rooftops have sort of that sloping ship's hull sort of shape to it.
And that's something that none of us would have ever thought of, not even Matt, really.
You can't
How
really
dare you
mention the city
take
of
away
Whitestone
from the
without mentioning the
genius of
Sun
Matt
Tree.
Mercer.
The first time I saw the Sun Tree, it was so epic.
I've seen some fantastic iterations of the Sun Tree. What Arthur dropped on us the first time that we saw the Sun Tree
Looks like the
literally
Devil's
made
Tree
our
where I
jaws
live.
drop.
I'm personally more
There's
fan
a haunted
of
place
the
called the
small
Devil's Tree in
ones,
Weird,
so
New Jersey.
Gilmore's Goods.
Looks
It's
like that.
something that we've pictured in our head for so long of what Gilmore's Glorious Goods looks like. There's so much detail, it's very specific. That was another thing that kind of took me by surprise is sort of the work that everyone put in to understand the
Ashley
world that we've
Johnson.
been
I think I said
playing in for the
Allison, or
past
did I
5
say
years,
Ashley?
And it's beautiful, it's so good.
All of our locations are very unique from each other, and we've gone to great lengths to make sure that every element we include in every scene really expresses the world.
I love when
and takes it further
castles and kingdoms are so big they're inside their own walls,
you
kind
really
of thing.
feel
That's
like these are
I like
drawings
that
of real
style.
places and not just a quick sketch
Percival
of a random temple.
Derolo.
All starts on paper.
It reminds
a bunch
me of
just
Jason
words
Derulo.
describing characters in a story. Then we start to try and visualize it with Arthur and his team.
It's a multi-stage process. We start with storyboards that we're working off of that sort of give us an idea what the shot is, where characters are going to be standing, and what the general action of the scene is. And then a background designer is going to take that storyboard and just really flesh out the composition, figure out what design elements we want in there. A background painter takes it next, adds lighting.
It's so
That
cool how
lighting
they
is
could just like
basically
do it
used to enhance
on
the
a computer
storytelling
and
moment.
A really good
like whenever I
background
see
by
stuff like that, I
itself,
think of
anything
how
else
difficult it
evokes
must have been
emotion.
back in the
It
day
tells you
when you
instantly
could do that now.
what the scene is going to be like.
It's a lot like a DP for live action. You're trying to express what the story is telling you through light and color.
When it comes, not even just to animation, but film in general, framing is everything. Wherever you place your characters and wherever you place your action is going to have an intense impact on how the audience
I
feels
feel like I
and how the
recognize
audience
that dude
relates
from
to what's
something
happening.
else.
It's wild to do all these different things and then have them slowly converge into one final piece of media.
We have many, many more months of production ahead of us.
We're getting into the nitty-gritty of it.
They probably work crazy hours, but doing what you love, I mean, I work crazy hours, but I do what I love.
Finally, all of this work, it's all come to fruition.
We are really trying to elevate ourselves to create an animated show that even we've never done before.
I think the fans and critters are going to be floored by what we've made for them.
You ain't seen nothing yet.
Awesome. Like that last shot. All right, guys, so we get The Legend of the World of The Legend of Vox Machina. That had a lot of the same people, but I felt like not as many people. I feel like we had a few select people doing most of the talking. Not that that's a problem at all. I'm just feeling like the story came together with a lot more writers and stuff like that, where now we're down to, like this guy said, the nitty gritty, where it's like you got to really focus on the style and stuff, and you don't want to have too many hens in the hen house. Is that how it goes? You have too many guys doing the same thing. You might have too many contrasting styles. Not that it's a guarantee, but I feel like you just want to have a couple dudes. I could be totally wrong about this whole thing. I'm just thinking that's kind of the approach I would take if I was going to do something like this. Not that I ever could or would, but they basically said the first 2 episodes are going to revolve around Emon. They said Emon is where it all starts. That is where I guess we're all going to come together. I feel like they said that's where the bar is, maybe. But then we're going to go out to a place called Whitestone. We're going to do a little traveling, but they showed us some of the world. So that is what I wanted. This is exactly what I wanted. Nothing too spoilery, but it gives me some of the geography of the world. It gives me where we're starting out, what's kind of going on, and that's all I really want to know. He even said they never live streamed this part. It was said in other videos as well. But Mike Mercer said in this one, as well as the others, that the first 2 never were live streamed, but it's always been part of the campaign and they've known about it and stuff like that. So we're going to get a little story building, hence the world of the world building. And I think that's great. So you guys will kind of be just as in the dark, I feel like, as I am, unless they've talked about it in interviews and stuff like that, and you guys are pretty familiar. I mean, I don't know, maybe they have world building things on the side and you guys know all about everything, even things that weren't even live streamed. I feel like that they are using a lot of similar buildings as Lord of the Rings and other fantasy things. But I mean, at this point, it's almost inevitable that you're going to follow some sort of theme. And I feel like one of them said we intentionally were using like images from other things to sort of connect to it. Maybe I'm totally wrong, but I feel like I heard that, or maybe I'm assuming they did, because I feel like at least 1 or 2 of those places resembled Minas Tirith, but like not as high up as it is in Lord of the Rings, more like on the ground. Then there was a place that kind of looked like Helm's Deep, where it was buried inside the mountains, sort of. Am I crazy? Am I just assuming that I saw these things, or am I thinking I did and I'm just like so on the Lord of the Rings thing? Because I love Lord of the Rings and I recently just rewatched all of them. So it's fresh on my mind and I feel like those places looked very similar. I know they did say they were trying to go for a fantasy version of New York City, and that's cool too. So we got like some sort of cityscape in a fantasy world. This is exactly what I'm looking for. These aren't considered spoilers in my mind. These are ways for you to be more in touch with the world so you could take more in on a first watch rather than try to figure everything out on the fly while you're watching for the first time. Then you're going to miss a lot of things and you're going to have to watch it twice to pick up on those things. So I feel like understanding the world is important. And I don't feel like I've gotten anything spoiled, knowing the place they start and things like that. I still am so in the dark about their personalities, where they came from, why they're there. Obviously, they've all got to have motives. They all have to have motives for why they're where they are and what they're doing. And there's got to be a goal. I don't like to make too many comparisons to other things. I like to say when I think I see references, but I like to think that each thing's its own and keep things unique. And I like to, give credit where credit's due when someone creates something. But in the sense of Guardians of the Galaxy, I feel like this is going to be some ragtag group of people that all kind of comes together and has a use for each other in some way. Doesn't necessarily mean they're bad people. I just feel like they're going to be like, well, you'll come in handy and you'll help me achieve my end goal. So I feel like that's what's going to happen. They're all going to kind of band together doing that, but then learn to love each other and all become a family. I noticed when I looked up the videos after I did the story of and then was looking up the world of, I noticed the story and the world came out over a year ago. And then the design of the Legend of Vox Machina, which is next, is 6 months ago. So they put out the story in the world, took a 6-7 month break, maybe longer, because it doesn't tell you how much longer over a year, unless I really looked into everything and I didn't go that far. But it's at least 6 to 7 months, maybe longer, in between the story in the world and the design. And then after that, the other two came out a month apart. I also see in the Critical Role videos that in between all of these videos, they were doing a crew and A on every episode that is coming out. I don't know how far it went because I didn't want to spoil anything and read the episodes and stuff, but I saw that there was at least 6 or 7, maybe more, maybe for every episode, some sort of crew and A they were calling it. Now I'm assuming that'll be massively spoilery, but if you guys could, without spoiling it, explain to me what that is and if I should watch it. I'm assuming I should not, but maybe I'll watch those as the episodes release so we get some sort of like understanding of what is going on and we'll get a little background. You guys let me know, but we're jumping into the legend of the design of the Legend of Vox Machina right after this. So you guys want to see more of what I do, full unedited reactions, all the shows on the channel, seasons ahead of what you're seeing, and hundreds of exclusives only on Patreon. The link's in front of me. If not, comments down below, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.